Hello everybody. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's video, I want to show you guys what the build looks like once it's done. So this is a rune level 25 character with +3 normal weapons and +1 special weapons, and we will go into how to build the character and everything. I have a suspicion that this is tied for the second strongest thing you can make under this Limgrave only rule set. So as you can see here by my map, I have not stepped a foot outside of this starting area. So everything we've gotten is between Stormvale, Limgrave, Weeping Peninsula, and the Round Table Hold. So just real quick to show you the weapons, right? If you want to copy the build, this is what the talismans look like. Got those nice and orderly. This is the armor. Truthfully, it doesn't really matter. I'm only ever going to really wear one thing almost, but you know, we'll go into that as well. And once again, this stats over there on the side. There's only going to be 20 of the invasion fingers in Limgrave, so if you're trying to keep it as to the rule set as possible, then you are going to want to turn off autosave and revert your save once you're done invading. Some of the things you can do to keep the build mostly the same, but go outside the boundaries to improve it a little bit, is you can get either one or both of the permanent invasion fingers, but those are in this part of the map up here in Limgrave, or not Limgrave, Liurnia and the Volcano Manor. Very early in Liurnia is an incantation called Flame Cleanse Me to get rid of Scarlet Rot. Scarlet Rot is something that is omnipresent at these lower levels, people that are running Twink builds that are using Scarlet Rot. And then also if you go and kill one of the Tibia Mariners that are super early here in Liurnia, then you can get Bestial Vitality from Garunk. And those are some very easy upgrades to the character if you're going to keep it mostly Limgrave, just a little bit outside of it. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual video, why don't we? There's this idea that on low-level characters you plan to invade with, that you need to have mid and late game armor past what people that you would be invading are using to be able to succeed at low level, due to things such as people running that themselves as the host, as well as overleveled phantoms. And while in those situations that certainly can be true, something that has never sat right with me is the idea that you need to run these things. And I wanted to make a rule set for myself for this character that goes like this. Can I make a character without ever having left Limgrave? Now, there are technically some things about it, like we are going to Stormvale, we are going to use things from the Round Table Hold and the Weeping Peninsula, but for this rule set, I'm counting those as generally Limgrave. But essentially, the answer is that yes, you can make a very functional character with such a limited amount of tools. There's actually a lot of power to be found in Limgrave. And there are two builds that at level 25, +3, +1, that I think are vying for the most powerful build you can make. One of those is a character that is a Vigor Gouge character that still has the capability of two-handing the Grafted Blade and giving itself the Oath of Vengeance buff to receive +5 to every other stat. And the other character I think could be the strongest one you can make is the one that we're going to talk about today, which is a character that has 17 Faith and 13 Arcane. So what makes this build special is the amount of things that help a Faith character that can be found in the first area of the game. For example, your physic is very important for low-level invasions, and you get a very powerful physic if you're running a Faith character. So the only two stat-increasing physics that are available in Limgrave are one for Strength and one for Faith. And then also on top of that, you're going to get access to the HP regeneration part of the physic as well, regenerating 7 HP per second, which in a metagame that has as low of HP as low level, that is significantly more HP acquisition per second in comparison to if you are running 60 Vigor at a higher rune level. But it doesn't stop there. if you go Faith, which by proxy means you're either starting as Confessor or, in our case, Prophet, you already get quite a bit of Arcane in comparison to, say, starting as Vagabond, which has the lowest at 7 Arcane. But Prophet is going to start with pretty much the perfect amount for two things, well, actually 3 technically, that only make this build stronger. So the first thing is that you will get access to the Reduvia, which is one of the strongest weapons in the game for both PvE and PvP, as well as just being a monster at low levels. Now, people generally use this weapon wrong. They spam the Ash of War when really the power of this weapon is all throughout its moveset, but especially in the R2. The R2 cannot be poised, which is great against people that are overleveled phantoms and have a lot of poise, as well as being able to bleed, which is one of the best ways of puncturing the defenses of an overleveled character, as well as bleed just being very strong generally at low level due to the resistances being so low, as well as 13 Arcane being what's needed for Dragon Claw. Now, something that makes this character so strong is the selection of incantations you can have in just Limgrave. Catch Flame is the most important. Catch Flame does a ton of damage, and that is no different at low level, but you're also going to get access to the Flame of Frenzy as well as a dragon spell of your choosing. Now, the reason that we went with this combination is because Catch Flame is just a generally good, easy to land incantation. Flame of Frenzy is a very consistent roll catch, and Dragon Claw, requiring us to not upgrade our Arcane past 13, also has a ton of hyper armor as well as great damage. So something that you see sorcery characters run quite frequently is Slicer for roll catching, as well as just being very consistent to land in general from neutral. You're going to see people run Carrion Piercer for the roll catch, and then Gavel of Haima for the hyper armor. And so in a similar sense, we're running the same thing here. Another huge reason why it's so nice having this extra bit of Arcane is because of sleep pots. The crafting recipe is actually in Limgrave, not too far away from the Artist Shack, and what's crazy about them is that they scale with Arcane. Their sleep buildup gets better the more you have, and considering that we have some Arcane already, as well as people generally don't have good sleep resistance at these levels, they are insanely powerful. And what's craziest of all is that I used an item map to get all of the Trina Lilies in Limgrave, and assuming that the item map didn't miss any locations, there are 72 Trina Lilies in Limgrave, meaning that even if you are going to be invading for a while, it is going to be a lot of time before you run out of those Trina Lilies. And like I said, for this character, I really do recommend, if you're on console, resetting your save when you're done invading. Get the character to the spot that you want it to be, and then revert your save once you're done for the day. Another gigantic boon for a Faith character in a Limgrave-only setting is that you actually get a very good selection of Ashes of War. Now, it's not going to be as great as a character that's just vigor gouging and using whatever they can, but the most important one, Sacred Blade, is pretty much good on everything because of how strong the damage buff is at low levels, but it's only going to be stronger on a Faith character. You can have a second copy of Sacred Blade like I do, because there is one Lost Ash of War in Limgrave sold by the merchant in the Weeping Peninsula, the second one that's closer to the Bell guy. But also, you're going to get access to the Golden Vow Ash of War. Now, this is not very helpful when invading because it has a debuff against other players. It gives you effectively less attack and defense, but it does give you another holy scaling as well as being very helpful for PvE, and that is something that I wanted to talk about. This is not a character solely focused on invading other players. It's also focused on helping other people, and so something that's extremely fun about this character is how much it's able to do when being a teammate. So you're going to get access to heal, which isn't going to be healing a huge amount for your teammates in multiplayer PvE, but it is going to do something to help keep your probably clueless host alive, as well as that Golden Vow being stronger for PvE. Essentially, that buff is going to be almost 5 or 6 times stronger in PvE than if you're the invader fighting other people. as well as the Reduvia being as good as it is for PvE. If you're fighting a boss or enemies that are bleedable, then it's negligible how much damage you're doing because the bleed is going to do a percentage-based amount of their maximum HP, meaning that it's fantastic for being able to spam against bleedable enemies. Now, a hard stay on this character is the Scar Seal Talisman. You get it in Weeping Peninsula, and it is going to be very important for allowing us to use the catalog of weapons that we're using, as well as its benefits to our vigor and whatnot. But it's going to allow us to use a very strong cast of weapons. We don't need a very big amount of weapons because we just need enough to do certain things, as well as some good candidates for some sacred damage with that Sacred Blade. What it allows us to use is going to be the Reduvia, obviously, talked about that already. We've got the Misericord for critting, we got the Cestus for endure, we have the Noble's Estoc as a just pretty much the only thrusting sword you can get other than the Rapier in Limgrave, but the Noble's Estoc is a lot better, as well as being able to use things as either Scimitar or Shamshir, because believe it or not, Shamshir, one of the strongest weapons in the game, is in Limgrave. Now, I'm not using it because I like the Scimitar more, but if you're being optimal, that is the one you will use. As well as using the Sgt.Jager, which is already a phenomenal weapon, but one of the best candidates for Sacred Blade in the whole game, due to it having that innate scaling with faith. And then also we're going to be running a halberd as well, which is great for hitting those running R1s, as well as just being a fantastic candidate with either the Noble's Estoc or the dagger in the offhand. So, very powerful cast of weapons that we have. It's not a large amount, but it is certainly enough to do the work that we need them to do. We're also using the Dragon Communion Seal, and there's two reasons for this. One, it's going to help our Dragon Claw hit harder, right, which is very important. If we're going to use an attack that's so slow and we're using to trade, then we definitely need it to hit as hard as possible. But as well, we're going to be using it because it doesn't weigh anything, which is very helpful. Now, it's not as helpful for my purposes because pretty much no matter what, I'm going to wear my classic drip, but if you are going to be running optimized armor, which probably has something to do with the Beastman talisman, or not talisman, the armor that Bernal is wearing. If you kill him, he drops his armor, even if you kill him all the way back in Limgrave. If you're doing something involving that combination, then your talisman weighing nothing is extremely helpful for being able to min-max your armor. Speaking of armor, you have a stat armor for Faith in Limgrave. Whether you farm it from the commoners or you get the simple version, which is just lying near a site of grace in Stormvale, that gives 1 Faith, which makes all of our damage slightly better for all of our Faith needs, as well as it just being a great piece to put on if you want to light roll. Sometimes light roll, for how dirty it is necessary, and to be honest, like, if you're fighting invaders, like, there's so much worse that they are doing than you light rolling, so who cares really? But yeah, running the Commoner's Armor is a fantastic bit of tech for this character, as well as the 2 Scarab Heads. This is the only build that's going to get benefit from both Scarab Heads that are in Limgrave. There is the Ash of War Scarab and the Incantation Scarab. The Incantation Scarab is going to make us take more damage, but make the incantations we're casting cost less, which we're not going to use for attacking purposes, but if you are casting a regeneration spell or a healing spell, it'll help you consume less blue, which is extremely good. And then also the Ash of War Scarab is going to be great for buffing with Golden Vow and other Ashes of War before a fight. So Golden Vow, the biggest problem with it is that it costs 40 FP, but the Ash of War Scarab, if I'm not mistaken, makes it cost only 32. Now that might be a little bit wrong, but it does make it cost less, and that is very good, because the biggest problem with this character is our FP consumption. For how strong it is, our light might burn quickly if we burn through all of our blue before we are able to kill people or whatnot. But that's actually an extra little benefit that this character has. One of the only 2 weapons in the game that has an on-death effect for FP is in Limgrave. If you kill the Deathbird in Weeping Peninsula, you get the Sacrificial Axe. Now this is significantly stronger if you're on the host's team, because you guys are playing the level and killing a whole bunch of small enemies. Anytime anything dies, the Sacrificial Axe, as long as you're holding it, will give back 4 FP. So when you are a teammate mostly, it's going to be fantastic for getting your FP back over time, because there's only 3 Starlight Shards in Limgrave, so if you're reverting your save, you're not worried about using them necessarily, but you will blow through them rather quickly, which sucks. Another big thing about this character is, why did we go with Cracked Pots as our starting gift? I was considering going for the Shabriri's Woe for co-op, that way that enemies would mostly be focusing on you, as well as the Stone Sword keys to be able to more easily get into the Stone Sword locked area in the first step area. But the reason we went with Cracked Pots is because the 3 that you get are being pulled from Caelid and Lindell, and it gives you 11 in total. And because I said, like I said before, you have those sleep pots, which are an absolute, godsend for this level. It is important that we get as many as we can, so it makes our total go from 8 to 11. Now I do have one poo-poo pot, so 10 sleep pots and a dookie pot for if I kill an overleveled phantom or something. But if once again I was playing a little more optimally, 11 sleep pots, extremely powerful for this low level. Now, one of the larger upgrades that I could have made to the character that I opted to not do is put the Cypher Pata on this character. Cypher Pata, being a poking fist, is the only poking fist that can be gotten within the rule set, and being that it takes 30 faith, it's only available on this build. But the thing is that I opted to not go for it, because if I were to go for 20 faith and then also use the physic to get to the 30 needed, I don't like the idea of not being able to use a weapon all the time, and that would also mean that I'm taking 3 from, say, my vigor stat, which I'm not a fan of. So that is why we did not go with that, even though if you did decide to go with it, it would do you some good. It is definitely a strong weapon. So it's a consideration, but it's a sacrifice I was not willing to make. But with that being said, this was one of the most fun characters I've ever put together, and that is going to be a good transition for the second half of this video. I want to show you guys the steps I took to make it. Now, I didn't put in all of the Trina Lilies that I farmed, and also because I couldn't step outside of Limgrave, I couldn't go get the Bell Bearing that made it to where I could just level things, my weapons easily. That's in Liurnia, could not go get that. But despite the 3 hours of farming I had to do in the cavern, this is an extremely fun character. I will be rebuilding it on the PlayStation 4 version of the game. I have it on PS5, and the PS5 version of the game does not run well. I'll be rebuilding this character, but going outside of Limgrave for things such as the Infinite Invasion Finger and stuff like that. But yeah, this is a super fun build. If you want something at low level that you don't have to feel like a bad person for killing just a host with or whatever, I mean, everything you got is right here. Everybody can get their hands on it super easy. And it's also just really fun making a build with such limitations. So with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will pick up here in a second for the crafting part of the video. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start commentating over what I'm doing to put the character together. Now, the first bit of this is going to be pretty similar to any other run. We're mostly going to be focusing on getting Sights of Grace. I mess up killing the spider right there, but it is worth mentioning before we get too far into this that I do things in a bit of a scattered order because I am mostly working with an item map, so some decisions might be a little bit weird when I come back to the same spot a second, or in some cases a third time. If you watch through the whole of this, then I will hopefully have made a point of all the times that takes place, and you will avoid doing the same thing over and over like I did. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and have killed the Soldier of Godric as well as the Tree Sentinel, and that will allow us to level up a little bit as well as buy some stuff here from Kale. This will put us at 6 out of 11 cracked pots, and we go ahead and buy a little bit of stuff for crafting. We also head over to the Groveside Cave. This has a cracked pot inside of it as well as the first of the fire protection talismans. We will come back and get that later, but you can choose to do that right now if you want to. Now at either one of the 2 sites of grace here, you'll meet Melina. Go ahead and do this bit, and then while you're at here, you're going to go ahead and get the map as well as the whetstone knife. This will allow you to put on Ashes of War, so, you know, pretty standard stuff, you know. This is going to be a bit standard for a while, but it'll change up the further in that we go. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to skip everything and get over here to the Artist Shack. Now, there's a couple reasons for this. First things first is that this painting and its location is how we will get the incantation scarab head, as well as just over this way, slightly northeast of that bonfire, is going to be the crafting book for the sleep pots, which, like I said before, one of the absolute greatest things that you can craft, if not the best thing that you can craft this early game. And it's also worth mentioning that there's a couple things I farmed that I did not record. So those 2 things are, I do make a point to show on the item map, or on the map, excuse me, all of the spots that you can pick up Trina Lilies, but I did not show me collecting all of those. And also I spent like 3 hours collecting smithing stone 1s from the miners that are able to drop them. There's about 30 to 40 smithing stone 1s that are within this area for the challenge, so I definitely recommend pulling up an item map and trying to get as many of those as you can, because farming them from the miners in the caves is not a very fun task. Now, we are going ahead and doing this guy's quest right here. Right, we're going ahead and clearing the castle for him, and then once he is here, I don't know if you're able to get this earlier, but we go ahead and kill him here. That way we get the golden seed from killing him, as well as gotten the Sgt.Jager from his quest. And like I said before, the Sgt.Jager is a phenomenal weapon, one of the best ones for a faith build, and we will make maximum use out of it. Right here next to this random hole, just randomly here, not too far away from the first step, is a smithing stone 1, so that is one of them I definitely recommend picking up. And not too far away is the aforementioned incantation scarab. So, like I said before, that'll be great for any supportive or HP regen healing buffs that we want to use. So, not really an attacking headpiece, not an attacking effect, but it's still very good. So we go ahead and get the Agheel Lake South side of Grace. We'll be traveling back and forward from this one quite a bit. And then as we cross this bridge, make sure to get the smithing stone and the stone sword key that is on the bridge. Both of those are going to be important for later. And then we're also going to do a bit of Irina's quest. So get the letter from her, exhaust her dialogue before moving on. Now we're just going to work our way south, getting up this little site of grace right here before we push further into Weeping Peninsula. There's a lot in this area that we're going to need to get, so getting all of the sites of grace here is going to be very important. Also, while you're in the area, go ahead and get the golden seed that is here. There are just enough golden seeds to be able to get your flask to 4 uses, and you can split that up between Crimson and Cerulean tiers as you see fit. I opted to go with 1 Cerulean tier and 3 Crimson tiers, but you're going to want to make sure that we are able to squeeze all of the uses of our flasks out as possible. There's also going to be 4 sacred tiers within Limgrave, and 3 of those are going to be here within the Weeping Peninsula. So this church we're going to here has one of those, as well as the very important incantation, the Flame of Frenzy. Now, the Flame of Frenzy is going to be one of the aforementioned ones that works well as a roll catch, as well as us being able to ignite barrels with it inside of Stormvale. We're going to do a little bit of a jump down the cliff right there, go to the Church of Pilgrimage, which is sort of northwest of that location, and get yet another sacred tier, which puts us at having acquired 3 of them so far. and then continue south to where the minor Erdtree is and kill the Erdtree avatar there. The Catch Flame is going to make it to where this guy is an absolute joke, and he's going to drop 2 very good crystal tiers, but the one that we'll be using is the HP regeneration one. The Opaline is really good for fighting PvE, but the other one is going to be great for pretty much all situations. The Opaline's not very good for multiplayer. Work your way north after jumping down that Spirit Spring to find the Faith Knot tier right here, which will give us a huge boon when we use our flask. I go ahead and take a second to go ahead and equip these spells as well as the physic that we just managed to assemble, and then we're going to travel southwest of the Church of Pilgrimage to get to the 4th and final church that is going to hold the sacred tears that we need. Just right there at the statue, and you will get your stuff 2+4. Now from here, we're going to make a little bit of a detour, and we're going to go up this Spirit Spring, and it is going to put us at the base of this tower right here. When you kill all of the turtles, you will get a memory stone, and there are 2 memory stones that you can get within the limitations of this rule set, which means that we can have 4 spells in total. Now, this will be really good. It would be a little bit better if we were able to go outside of Limgrave, because there's not a fantastic option for the 4th spell, but Rejection if you're the invader, or Heal if you're a teammate, they're fine enough. They're not amazing, but they're alright. Now, if you come over here to the Burnt Ruins, you're going to find a Stone Sword key, and we will be needing that for something that we're going to be doing here in a little bit. So we could have started with that as our starting item, but we decided to go against that. We're going to get a couple that are just around the world, and we're going to use these 2 we've collected to go back to the Stranded Graveyard. In this little off section right here, there's quite a lot of stuff that we're going to want. I'm not going to get all of it right now. I do unfortunately die in this run of the area, but there is a bit of important stuff as well. Now, to get the chariot to follow you for the least amount of time possible, if you stay in the closest to where it turns around spot and then jump down as it turns back around to go back up, it will leave you alone for a very long amount of time, allowing you to run through the area and kill this phantom right here, who will give us the Dragon Communion Seal, which is very important. Now, this is where I make a bit of a goof. I didn't hear it coming, and adios HP bar. it really do be like that sometimes. But I decided to take a moment before going back into the catacomb to use all of the runes that we've gotten from the graveyards and just other places as well. And we're going to make a trek sort of south of where the first church is. We're going to go down here to where this guy right here, this merchant, will give us some smithing stones, and we will use this bow here to great effect in that catacomb. Now we're going to run back through just the same way we did, but we're going to do something a little different this time. We're going to jump down right here where it looks like you could die. If you do it right here at the top, you will survive. There's actually a little bit of a secret area down here. Now, what you're going to do from here is kill all these guys, right? All the imps. And then the only real way that you're getting through this is if you make that go down, the fire-breathing pillar. So once you've done that, now you can kill this this Deutz bag right here, and we are able to push into this extremely dangerous room. There are 2 chrysalids in here, and they are hiding up there on the roof. In here is something very good. It is the Erdtree's Favor Talisman, but like you see, I got hit pretty hard right there, and a little bit of a secret here as well, perhaps not so much a secret 2.5 years into the game, is going up this little elevator that's hidden at the bottom, and of the 2 stone sword keys that you used, one will effectively be refunded right there. After killing this guy right here, we continue our run down. We're going to make a left, and this will put us all the way down where the tree spirit is. Now, thankfully, Catch Flame does a lot of damage to the tree spear. I don't have quite enough blue to make good use of this. I didn't respec my flasks to make as optimal of use of my Catch Flame as possible. So I just keep going with it until I run out, and then we're just going to kill him with Impaling Thrust from there. I mean, these guys are super easy. Only real problem is that move right there where they explode. The best way to deal with it is when you see them start doing it, turn around, run straight away from them, and make sure that you don't accidentally step on one of the flaming pillars that is created as well. But yeah, this is a super easy fight other than that, and Honestly, people complain about fighting this guy all the time because there's so many in the game, but hey, I really like fighting tree spirits. I find them to be a very fun little boss or mini-boss based on where you find it, except for that one in the Halig tree. But here I'm taking a second to increase our flasks. We have 5 and 2. What we're going to be able to manage before the end of building this character is 6 and 2. The rest of them are going to be mostly in Stormvale. Now, there is one that we're able to get from Roderika's quest, and it's a pretty good reason to talk to her up here. I don't remember if she gives it to you if you don't do her quest right. So once we collect this golden seed, we will start doing her quest, exhaust her dialogue, and then if you do it right, where you give her the chrysalids memento, when she moves to the Round Table Hold, she will give you a golden seed, which is quite nice. Once we have done that, we're going to move back to the Church of Pilgrimage. There is a little bit here that I meant to get before that I did not. We're going to go ahead and move south. We're going to work our way all the way over to this disc right here, and this is where we are going to get the Scar Seal, which is going to be a very important, essentially must-stay talisman for the build. Now, thankfully, by this point, I have enough buffs to make this enemy right here quite a lot easier. I've always personally had a problem with the Zamor enemies. There's just something about their moveset that does not gel with my brain. But thankfully, due to our Catch Flames doing as much damage as they are right here, we're able to trivialize it quite a bit. Now, we could make it do more damage. I do not currently have the Golden Vow Ash of War, which we get here before too much longer. I just didn't think to get it before now. But even without it, we're able to get him out of there. And so, yeah, the Scar Seal is very rarely going to come off. It's going to be a huge boon to our stats. Speaking of which, there's a little look at how the stats are coming along. We are at 24 of 25 that are planned. And then we are going to go ahead and kill the Agheel Lake Dragon. Now, I sped this fight up quite a lot. I got some bad RNG, and this fight ended up taking way longer than it was supposed to. But it's okay, as well as me getting smacked around, as you can see. But this is the only dragon in Limgrave. It is the only way that you're going to get a dragon heart. And so that means you have to choose between one of the 3 spells that are available with that dragon heart at the Dragon Communion. And like I stated earlier, I think the best one you can go for when it comes to this character is the Dragon Claw, because Dragon Fire is kind of doing what Flame of Frenzy already is, and Dragon Maw costs too much, so we're not going to go with that one. Alrighty, by this point we're getting pretty close to the point that we're just going to be able to go into item acquisition mode. A lot of what we've been doing is pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, but we're getting pretty close to being able to get things that are more unique to how this character gets put together. Now I go ahead and put a skull little sticker right there to remind myself that I got that cracked pot. That's going to help me just keep mental tabs on what I have and have not gotten. And then over here, behind the Third Church of America, is going to be the Scarab that's going to give us the Sacred Blade. This is pretty much good on every single low-level build, regardless of its stats, just because the Sacred Blade buff is so big and hits so hard at low level. It literally triples the damage, pretty much, of a weapon that it's put on. But considering that this is a Faith build, it is going to scale a little bit better with this character, even if it is good on pretty much anything. Down here, we finally go to the Groveside Cave, get that cracked pot right there, and then we will kill the Azula Beastman. Now, this fight right here, I mean, he has some moves that are meant to trick you into panic rolling, but we have more than enough stats and all that jazz to make short work of this guy. And also madness ourselves, apparently, so that's pretty epic. Now, thankfully for our purposes, 4 of the 5 starting defense talismans are in Limgrave. The only exception is the physical damage resistance one, which is in Caelid, but all of the others are going to be here. Well, I guess there's also the Peldrake Talisman, which is technically in Crumbling Azula, and you technically get to it from Liurnia, but it's whatever. All of the elemental ones besides those 2 we're going to be able to get pretty easily. By a few Ashes of War from Mr. Bonal there. If you're running a character where you want that really heavy armor that Bonal drops, you would kill him there after buying his stock. I don't remember if he drops a bell bearing. And unfortunately, we're going to opt to kill Mr. Mans right here, Mr. Jarman. The reason why is because to get the upgraded talisman, you have to be able to go through the game to Crumbling Azula, but if you kill him at any time, he drops the slightly less powerful version. But for the sake of our run, that is significantly more useful than just not being able to get it. Do some disgusting damage right there, and get ourselves the Warrior Jar Shard. Very nice. Now, up here along this bridge, we're going to get another smithing stone, as you saw. This guy's going to sell some, as well as a cracked pot. So these are all very good things. I go ahead and buy the halberd too. That's one of the weapons that I want to use. And thankfully, we have just enough stats with the Scar Seal on to be able to use it eventually. Considering that we're going to be both using a Noble's Estoc as well as some daggers in the forms of Earthsteel Dagger, Reduvia, Misericord, the halberd is the best companion for all four of those if you're going to do a combination setup of one weapon as well as another. We go ahead and go back down here south of the Church of Ella, go ahead and clear out this cave, and we're going to beat this boss here. Once again, our damage is going to be high enough that this is really not that big of an issue. And we're going to get the thing that lets you alter garments, the sewing needle. For some reason, I forgot what it was called for a second. You don't need to give it to Bach if you don't want to still be able to use it, and I just forget to go back to him. But also, just as importantly, we're going to push to the Dragon Communion Island, which is where we're going to be able to get our third incantation, Dragon Claw. But yeah, the reason that the alter garment thing is actually quite nice is because of the commoner's garb that we're going to use. It would be better to more convincingly light roll with it by taking off the cape. If you pump enough into endurance, you can probably still light roll with the cape on, but just for the sake of making sure that I light roll, as well as I just think it looks cooler without the cape, we're going to take it off. This is once again another boss that gets shish kebabbed by Catch Flame, so we're going to make good use of that. This is also another boss fight that I did not think to go get Golden Vow for, which will be relatively soon, but you technically could have done it from the get-go. Had a bit of an easier time with pretty much all of these enemies. So he's doing a bit of that right there. He has pretty high holy resistance, which is unfortunate for us, but the fire damage cuts straight through him. He's also going to give us our only talisman pouch for the run. We're only going to have 2 talisman slots. The other ones are outside of Limgrave, effectively. And we're going to go ahead and take this time to buy our premier drip, our premier Dripperino. Can't leave home without the knight armor. And we're also going to buy Rejection. So Rejection's really good for ledging people, which is more possible in Stormveil, but at this level you're going to get Stormveil invasions all of the time. Now I go ahead and, while this is technically unnecessary, I do go ahead and fight this guy right here. He's going to give us the Taunter's Tongue, which is not really helpful for us, but also over here is going to be the Cypher Pata once we kill him. So if you decided to spec the build in a way where you can get to 30 faith and use the Cypher Pata, it is right here, just as an offshoot of that guy's fight room. So with that being said, it's time to push a little bit further into the big bad Stormveil itself. So we're going to make sure that we get all of the Sites of Grace on the way. Like I said, I'm referring to an item map to get pretty much everything without, forgetting it. So being able to choose whatever the closest Site of Grace is and get something as quickly as possible is very helpful for my purposes, right? So after getting pelted a little bit, turn left a little bit more, get this Site of Grace right here, and this is very close to the aforementioned Commoner's Garb, the Commoner's Simple Garb, which is going to give us 1 faith, which is very nice. We're also going to take a little bit of a detour over here to the east. This is going to give us the second Site of Grace we can find, and just past it, and this is something I forgot to get, is the Bolt Drake Talisman, which increases your lightning resistance. I did remember to get it off camera, but just so you know, it's right next to the Site of Grace. We're now going to move into the ravine in the upper middle part of Limgrave, and this is going to let us get the Reduvia, which is a very importante weapon, very powerful. Now, this enemy, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it has like reduced amounts of hit stun when you hit it in comparison to PvP players, but he can just kill you by mashing out of stun sometimes. So I do recommend, you know, taking your time a little bit with this guy, because he will randomly just start mashing like it's nothing through you and bleed you and kill you in 3 hits, which is very cringe. But when we do manage to kill him, Jeez Louise, the Sgt.Jager with Sacred Blade does a ton of damage. It is ridiculous. And it does fantastic against other players as well. You might have seen it in the earlier section with the invasions. It does very well. In this cave is where we're going to do Patch's quest. He can give a total of 3 gestures. I get 2 of the 3. The last one I just wasn't interested in. But yeah, you just want to make sure you get him to half HP, don't kill him, and he sells some pretty good stuff, including a couple of golden pickle foulfoot, as well as the crafting recipe, which if you are, say, spreading out of Limgrave and you have other things that you can buy, then the crafting recipe that this guy sells is extremely important. However, do not kill him if you're staying at rune level 25. Because his spear is +7, and it will absolutely ruin your PvP, because your weapons should be around +2, +3 at this level, and +7 will make sure that you don't connect with anybody. Let him get you to half HP, do this gesture however many times it takes for him to stop attacking you, and then log back into the game to get access to his shop. Like I said, sells some good stuff. He also sells the fan daggers, but in limited supply. He's also how we're going to get 5 of the invasion fingers. Now, I didn't buy the fingers yet because I don't have an overwhelmingly good amount of runes to do so. We will buy those once we have a little bit of pocket change. So we're going to go ahead and go over here to another merchant, the second merchant in Weeping Peninsula. And this guy is going to sell the only Lost Ash of War that is in Limgrave. And this is very important for us because having 2 weapons with Sacred Blade is a godsend for this character. It's also part of the reason that we don't want that many weapons, because we're going to just have 2 that can have Sacred Blade on the character, and then another holy one with Golden Vow. Right here is where you get Halig Tree Talisman. But yeah, we're just looking to use some good weapons, and we don't need that many that can have Ashes of War on them. Another one that we want in Giron will be great, which is why I get the Cestus from Gostock after killing Godric. But yeah, we're mostly going to be making use of the holy ones that we're able to get our hands on. Going to this cave that's kind of hidden in the north of the Weeping Peninsula. This rune bear, I won't lie, he gets a bit into... we get into a bit of a barn burner. He hits me quite a lot. He's going to drop the magic talisman. And like I said, I didn't get the lightning one on camera. It's right next to that Stormveil Site of Grace. You will have all 4 of the main elemental ones, which is very helpful for certain invasions. We also get the Crimson Medallion. There are multiple upgrades to this medallion, but none of them are in Limgrave, so that will be very helpful for our purposes. Now we're going to go ahead and head over here and get to the High Road Cave. The main thing that we're going for in here is the Shamshir. I eventually opt to not have it on the build because I am based and use the Scimitar, but if you're being more optimal than me, then yes, you will run through here, pick up anything you see. Nothing here is, you know, a detriment to the character, just runes and good stuff. But in this large area that has the waterfalls, we're going to find the Shamshir in the middle. So take your time going through here, try not to die, and get that beautiful banana curve sword. Very good weapon. The talisman that this boss here drops is not important for our build, but I want to keep my runes rather than teleporting out or dying to get out. So we go ahead and opt to kill the golem. I'm using the Flame of Frenzy not because of its damage, but to bait the stagger, because it does do a lot of stagger against enemies. Unfortunately, he glitches into the floor a little bit right there, causing me to not get the riposte, but this time he is not so lucky. Huge weakness for these guys right here, and Flame of Frenzy lets us get there very easily. As you can see me using these R2s over and over, do not be fooled by what you see from 99% of Reduvia players. The Ash of War is good, but it is so far and away not the best attack. It is your R2s, my dude. We're going to go ahead and start pushing towards the Rampart Tower side of Grace. Going to have plenty of enemies to attack us on our way up here. This guy should be no problem for us by now. Dragonclaw eats him alive. And we have another Banished Knight here that is looking for some pain. The Rampart Tower side of Grace is going to be the one we go to the most because it is a very good vantage point to be able to get a lot of unique things for the build. Now we're going to spend a little time in this area. There's this little back entrance over here. Well, I actually don't go to it quite yet. Right here's the Mimic Veil. If you plan on hiding as something in the world, you will want that. But we're going to circle back around, take this secret ladder, and then we are going to open that door that only opens from that side. We'll get a Stone Sword key for our troubles, and that'll be very nice, refunding us once again another Stone Sword key. Now, I opt to avoid the Chrysalid in here. It doesn't drop anything other than runes. And nearby, we're going to get the Misericord and the Wet Blade that is in this room. The Misericord is the best crit weapon in the game. I just got a Great Axe there by random chance. That's not helpful. The Misericord is an obscenely good weapon, so a lot of the best daggers in the game are here in Limgrave, and we're going to make use of all three of them, needless to say. There are more than three, but we're making use of the best three, I should say. Go up this little elevator right here, and two more of this world's cracked pots are going to be over here, which is going to be very important. So we're getting very close to the 11 that we're able to have in Limgrave. And then take your time to kill this big jar right here, because he is the only meat dumpling that we're going to get from this area. I do recommend, if you're doing this on console, please turn off autosave in your PS5 settings and figure out how to revert your save when you are done. Upload the save once you've made the character and then revert once you're done invading, because there's a very good amount of resources here in Limgrave, but it's better to not need to go outside of this area to get more of them. Get 4 Smithing Stone 1s right here in Nefeli Lou's room, and then after exhausting her dialogue, we can summon her. I don't think you have to summon her for her quest, but I'm superstitious, so I go ahead and do it anyway. Godric right here, he is more holy resistant, if I'm not mistaken, than fire resistant. We're just doing very small amounts of damage due to having summoned somebody, doubling his HP. So take a bit of time beating him right here, but thankfully the Reduvia and its bleed is going to help us despite our low damage. Once again, the Reduvia is a fantastic weapon to have at these low levels. Being able to just chunk an enemy's HP with bleed, as well as PvP players, is very good. Once Gostock has showed up right here, which may take a little bit of resetting the world, by the way, rapid fire Gostock right there, I got the Cestus and the Buckler. The Buckler is my parry option, and the Cestus is what I will be using Endure with to be able to get out of sticky situations. Now we come over to this man right here. He sells 5 of the 20 blood fingers that are here. Patches is going to sell another 5 right here. Gostock is going to sell 2, and then there are going to be 3 that are lying on a body in Stormvale. Now I hop across these roofs, and just because I want them, I go ahead and kill this bird to get the gesture nearby, and then once I have killed the bird, we will go up this roof and get the Claw Talisman. This will allow us to do more damage when we do jump attacks. Not going to use it too much, but hey, it's here. Might as well go ahead and get it, you know? But we're going to work our way down from this location and get a cookbook and the next 3 Festering Bloody Fingers. Also, I don't have it in the recording. I didn't record myself getting the 5 from the merchant that is in the Weeping Peninsula, the one that's south of the Bell Tower, the Walking Mausoleum. I did not record myself getting that. I only, in this recording, got 15 of them, but there are 20. 5 of them are sold from that guy. But the others are going to be here with these Banished Knights. All right here I go north of Patch's little tunnel. There's going to be a catacombs up here, and this is the best spot in Limgrave for farming mushrooms. So mushrooms are the other piece of the puzzle when it comes to all of those Trina lilies and being able to craft the sleeping pots. So you don't even really need to beat this catacomb. You can just run out of here like so, and I have at least found 5 mushroom spawns on the ground. And I also, it looks like I didn't on this character, but normally I have them labeled. So what you do is you just run north until you can see your item crafting thing turn back on once things have de-aggroed, and then you can spawn back. And so I farmed a good amount of those, and it'll allow me to make use of all of the Trina lilies. Now this is the guy that drops the Golden Vow. He is north of where Banal is at the Stormhill Shack. So we're going to, or no, not Stormhill, Warmaster Shack. So kill this guy, hit him with the Dragon Claw, and he will give you Le Golden Vow. And a Great Shield, apparently. I have gotten ridiculously lucky in the wrong ways. Also, look at this. 3 hours of farming for this moment right here. Look closely. Huh? That's right, the Noble's Estoc with nothing! Absolutely nothing, making it easier to farm. That literally took me 3 hours. That sucked. This is absolutely going to be one of our Sacred Blade weapons, so very happy about that. Get the Scimitar right here. Also, it's worth getting the PvP things that allow you to be a hunter for other people's worlds if you're interested in that. That is sold by them. Also, I duplicate the Sacred Blade right there. This Death Bird that is south of the Warmaster Shack is going to be the one that drops the Blue Feather Talisman. Red Feather, unfortunately, is in Liurnia, so we cannot gain anything from that one. But the Blue Feather is arguably the more important of the two. Now here, if you look at all of the plant icons, these are all of the spots that my item maps show for Trina Lily spawns. And when you put all of these together and go and collect all of them, you are going to end up with 72 Trina Lilies, which is insane. Now, granted, I don't show myself collecting all of them on this. I recommend that you refer to an item map for your own collections. So, to get the Starlight Shards, one of those is south of the Stormhill Shack. One is over here where the Great Epee is, a little bit southeast of that location. And then the other one's going to be here in the Weeping Peninsula, not too far away from all the gravity dudes, sort of in the northeast part of the Weeping Peninsula. The Deathbird that's going to be near the Golden Seed Tree down here at night is going to be how we get ourselves the Sacrificial Axe, which is invaluable for when we are a Phantom, especially, for being able to continue to use all of our different spells and Ashes of War as we progress through a level. Going back up north of the Warmaster Shack, we can get invaded by this dude right here. Once we kill him, he will give us the Tamar Talisman, which is extremely helpful against those who have either dueling shields or just are walking at you with their shield up. Very important. And then also, if you want to put your dueling finger down randomly at the different little statues around the world, you can do that. Get a little bit of friendly dueling with people. And then here's just a little bit of sped up footage of me working my way through the caves. The 2 caves that have a plentiful amount of smithing stones, as well as the miners in here that can drop smithing stones. There's only 2 of them, and they're both outlined by a sort of an orange circle where they are on the map. This one is the one near the Agheel Lake, and then the other one is in the Weeping Peninsula. Once you've farmed these and you've gotten all the other overworld and purchasable ones, you're going to end up somewhere between 30 and 40. Or actually, no, for me, I got a couple lucky drops, and I was at 46 before I had to start farming. So, this guy's talisman, it's not really going to be helpful for us. It's a Roar Medallion. We don't really need it. But we're here anyway. We'll go ahead and take the runes. Yeah, so we're going to, off-camera, farm the miners in that Agheel Lake cavern, because I needed like 30 more than I got, and that took 3 hours, so there's that as well. So Able to do that right there. We go back to the site of grace that has the long bridge over at Stormvale, and down here is where we're going to get the Ash of War Scarab, which is going to be fantastic for buffing before entering a boss fog, with especially Golden Vow, but also if we want to buff something with the Sacred Blade. Also, come over here and get the Godric's Rune. It's the only one we can get, and thankfully it's the best one too. And with that, the build is essentially done. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you have as much fun with this character as I've been having. And with that, have yourself a good day. Peace.